You know, there's a lot of beloved SpongeBob games out there in the world. I mean, Battle for Bikini Bottom to this day is still one of my favorite platformers of all time, despite bootleg Mr. Krabs.
SpongeBob, this flapping robot crisis is—
Don't talk to me ever again. But what about the more lesser-known SpongeBob games? The games that nobody ever seems to talk about? Is it because they're bad? Or just so obscure that only people named Trevor living in Vermont in the year 2003 know about? Well, regardless of the reason, today we're gonna go on a little journey through some of the forgotten SpongeBob games that time you forgot. Starting things off with SpongeBob SquarePants Typing, released in 2004 for the PC and could have been for the GameCube. I mean, Jesus, it would give this controller another purpose at least. I don't think I really need to explain this game. But yeah, it's a game that teaches you how to type. The core gameplay itself is a little bland and dead. There's no music or anything to really visually stimulate a kid. It's basically just Yellow Hands, Mavis Beacon, whatever. What makes this game really stand out and pretty special, though, are all the cool little cutscenes.
You expect people to compete for a peanut butter and jellyfish jelly sandwich?
It's all really funny stuff. The writing feels like something that actually could have been in an episode of the show. Basically, the Krusty Krab is hosting a typing tournament where the winner will receive a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Great.
If you don't sit properly, you may experience back, arm, or shoulder pain. You might even end up looking like this.
Oh, Jesus, yeah! That would absolutely scar any little kid from wanting to play any more of this game. You gotta love the choppy animation. It feels like a YouTube parody or something. Like SpongeBob's gonna end up in China any second now.
And in the floral print, the prodigious pentacle of typing power, Patrick Star.
That's pretty much all there is to talk about, considering, again, the game is just typing. There are some mini-games though to spice up the gameplay. Yeah, don't that just look spicy? Also pro-trans, while SpongeBob is super progressive. A neat little educational game for sure. Up next, we have SpongeBob SquarePants 3D Obstacle Odyssey, once again released on the PC in 2004. This game is really weird. The best way I can describe it, I guess, is that it's Monkey Ball, but without the ball. And that's it. Eventually they introduce platforming and the game becomes the most nothing platformer ever. Now, you might be looking at these stages so far and think to yourself, man, there's a lot of tutorial stages. But no, this is the game. The entire game takes place in this empty void with random platforms on it. You run around, jump, and collect items. That's it! How do you even legally get to call this a game? It feels like a tech demo or something. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it was used as a tech demo for Battle for Bikini Bottom or something. And then some dickhead at Nickelodeon said, yeah, we could just sell this too. It's so lazy. And just look at SpongeBob's face. Were you trying to make him scary? Because mission accomplished. A lot of people have said that Bubsy 3D is one of the laziest excuses for a platformer, but just look at this. I think SpongeBob 3D Obstacle Odyssey takes the cake. Literally a platformer. This is SpongeBob SquarePants Underpants Slam. Released exclusively on the Xbox Live Marketplace in 2007, the plot of this game is that a storm hit a shipment of King Neptune's underwear, spreading it all throughout Bikini Bottom, and he's enlisted the help of SpongeBob and friends to get them back. Why he just can't go to the store and buy it like the rest of us peasants, though, is another thing. Honestly, this game is just like a mini Metroidvania. Every stage has 100 pieces of underwear hidden in objects, enemies, and secret locations. You're given a fairly short time span to find all of them, with a few seconds added to the clock when you find some undies. I mean, the stages aren't too crazy with the mazes and whatnot, but as a kid, I could easily see myself getting lost and trying to figure out where I've already been. But then again, I was a stupid kid. And a stupid adult. But hey, the game is apparently multiplayer. So I've heard. I mean, I don't have anyone to play with, but exploring these pretty big stages and needing to collect all of the underwear in a short time span feels a lot more doable with some friends. I don't know, I personally didn't really like the game. It was, again, just so nothing. Just like a 2D version of 3D Obstacle Odyssey. Like, nothing here feels like SpongeBob. You could reskin the game with any other franchise and it wouldn't change a thing. I guess since it was an Xbox Live Arcade exclusive, there's a good chance the game was only like $5. So if that was the case, then sure, the game's not too bad. Alright, really quick before we move on, I just wanted to give a shout out to Bikini Bottom Bowling. It's an arcade cabinet you can find in a Chuck E. Cheese or Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It looked like a pretty basic bowling game, with the ball in the middle to roll around to hit the pins. I actually went to my local Chuck E. Cheese just to see if maybe the game was there, but no. I'm not surprised, but I'm still disappointed. It looks like a fun little bowling game. Shoutouts to this guy, I hope those 5 tickets took them far. Alright, here's something a little goofy and potentially stupid as hell. SpongeBob's Surf and Skate Road Trip, released on the Xbox 360 on November 8th, 2011. Now what makes this game unique is that it uses the Kinect. So you know it's going to be mid. I just learned that word. The game is an auto skater, or auto surfer, depending on which game mode you choose. And all you're really doing is leaning left to right to avoid obstacles and hit the checkpoints. Skating is one of those things that's so hard to master in a virtual experience. Tony Hawk's Ride was a game that focused on skating with a skateboard prop, and it was just so unresponsive, busted, and too ambitious to pull off what everyone really wanted, which was to do 6 skate tricks in the comfort of your living room. SpongeBob's Surf and Skate Road Trip bypasses that brokenness by just being a really simple game. Which, hey, I don't know. I wasn't a young kid when the Kinect came out, so maybe just being able to move left and right and seeing the characters do those things was enough to keep families entertained. It just doesn't feel like I'm surfing in Bikini Bottom, you know? The camera is too dynamic. I feel like the character should stay in the center of the screen, you know what I'm saying? When Patrick flies all the way to the right and catches some air, it just doesn't feel immersive. To compare it to another Tony Hawk game, Downhill Jam is kind of the gameplay and camera work I was expecting. Notice how no matter what we do, the camera is always right behind us. So if we're standing behind a Kinect, this would feel like we're projecting ourselves into the game. The voice acting also just sounds like those AI-generated voices. It doesn't feel real.
So, you may be wondering why I've invited you all here. Snap back to reality. There goes gravity. There goes rabbit.
Overall though, the game is just fine. I've played worse Kinect games. Like Star Wars, let's just forget that that ever existed. And last but not least, we have SpongeBob's SquigglePants, released on the Wii on April 10th, 2011. Now this game is also special because it requires a lesser known accessory for the console, the U-Draw. Definitely some kind of precursor to the Wii U. It was a gamepad you can draw on with a stylus and even use as a motion controller. There were only 10 games released on the Wii that were compatible with this thing. Even with that being the case though, Nintendo still loved it, obviously, and would eventually lay the groundwork for the Wii U. The game starts off with Patchy the Pirate explaining to us how the U-Draw works.
Just tap the stylus thingy on the U-Draw game tablet, me bucko, and you can select objects and other fascinating interactions.
I guess this was a cheaper alternative than to animate SpongeBob. The game itself, though, is, believe it or not, a goddamn WarioWare clone. Yeah, micro games. You're given a few seconds to complete some kind of task, and it's all really fun stuff. The stylus and motion control of the U-Draw really adds that extra layer of fun for the console. Like seriously, the games are given so much more creative range of what you have to do, and it's way more responsive than the Wii remote. Like, tilting the U-Draw back and forth feels like you're more in control of it because it's this big, bulky thing in your hands, as opposed to a little remote. But oh man, my absolute favorite thing about this game is just with how stylized it is. That's the best word I could use to describe the entire game. Stylized. Every micro game has a unique look to it, whether it be these cute little crayon drawings, the super detailed and dark horror images, the badass comic book style, or the ever-charming 8-bit simplistic style. And that's just to name a few. Seriously, this game is so insanely good. How has it not reached God status on the internet like Battle for Bikini Bottom has? In between each couple of challenges, you're given more patchy cutscenes, which are always cute.
Just lovely. I'm all choked up. Just give Patchy a second, kids.
Yeah, that's all I really gotta say. A really fun game that I wouldn't mind having a sequel to. I mean, you know, without the U-Draw 2 or whatever. And those were some of the more forgotten SpongeBob games. Some of them I could definitely understand being left in the bowels of time, but others definitely deserve some light and love. What's your favorite underrated SpongeBob game? Let me know. Now if you'll excuse me, I gotta get going. I've gotta get to boating school. I've already failed my driving test like 15 times, it's getting embarrassing.